Hi, I'm Kyle, and when I was 15 years old, I made a video about YouTuber diss tracks. It was 10 or so minutes long, and I'm lucky that not a lot of people saw it because I didn't know what I was talking about.
The flow of the song isn't too bad. The disses they make here, who actually knows how to rap.
My top artist on Spotify that year was Blur. Now, I'm not going to say I know more about the medium since then, because I'm white, but I definitely listened to some of the best it has to offer, and I've even done some research into the art form as a whole. Now, if you're like me, you may be asking yourself, where did the format of the modern diss track come from? Great question. I don't know, and Wikipedia doesn't either, and that's all the research that I want to do for this video because I have a lot of really awful people I'm forcing myself to talk about. But I can say what popularized the modern diss, and that was the East Coast-West Coast rivalry in the 90s. Once again, I'm white, I'm not a part of the culture, I'm merely an observer, do not have me explain these things, I will do a terrible job. Watch this video instead. But the art of the diss is a very tedious one that requires you to observe your opponent and try to attack them from almost every angle. One of the most infamous ones in the past year or so was Kendrick Lamar's diss on Drake, which was so destructive of Drake's image that the sheer impact forced him to continue how not to make good music. I hope he never lives that down. But Kyle, this is a video about YouTuber diss tracks. How come you aren't talking about YouTube? I'm getting to it. I know algorithms have poisoned our minds to the point where we have to have a flashy cut every 2 seconds, but let me at least introduce what I'm talking about first, okay? In the mid-2010s, a trend started forming on the internet thanks to one Ricegum, a YouTuber. And with that came a bunch of other clout chasers who chose to capitalize on it. And from there you saw one rich multi-million subbed YouTuber responding to another rich multi-million subbed YouTuber, and they all thought they were becoming legitimate musicians. Just look at the production values of some of these videos. They have teams of people working on them. This trend lasted years and was virtually inescapable. Hell, even my small group of friends wanted to write diss tracks when we got mad at each other. Kyle up in here thinking he's the best in the game, he putting the rest of the channel into some shame. These were the people I called my friends back in the day. We were all delusional. There's a lot of YouTuber disses that I could talk about, and quite a few end rather grimly, not because the tracks were so fire that they ruined careers, but because the creators themselves would end up doing that time and time again, like with the case of NetNobody versus KSI. To save your ears and my future monetization, hopefully, I will not be playing the songs in this video. You're welcome. You may know KSI as one of the most famous creators on the internet, shooting to popularity by making FIFA videos. He's now a professional boxer and the guy behind the best song of all time, Thick of It. Here, I'll show you a clip.
Into the thick of it. Into the thick of it.
Look, a promise is a promise, guys. He's also a shady businessman alongside Mr. Beast and Logan Paul. Hey look, Prime Energy. I once had a kid who wasn't any older than 12 come up to me at my gas station job and asked if we had Prime Energy. I told him he's too young to drink it and that his mother should take his phone away from him. 6 years ago, KSI was beefing with the other members of his content house called the Sidemen, which is now one of the most famous groups on the internet. Don't worry, we'll get back to that later. And in the heat of the moment, SkyDoesMinecraft, acclaimed creator of such hits as Minecraft minigames, Cops, and Robbers, thought, man, I should chime in. We could talk about SkyDoesMinecraft for a while, because if there's one thing that's changed about him since the release of his diss tracks, it's the fact that he's no longer liked by a good majority of the internet. For those of you that don't know, SkyDoesMinecraft turned into NetNobody and started creating music instead of Minecraft videos, and in the process of transitioning his content, a lot of accusations of abuse were made by his ex-partner, and somehow in the midst of all this, he and KSI just got into a lot of arguments over Twitter. I'm not going to waste my time bringing up several-year-old tweets from two content creators I dislike, but that's how it started. Adam released his first diss track titled Diss Tracked Ed, and it's something, I guess. How the f you changing, bro? If anything, you still make crap. Acting like you run and rap, when you slur on every track. It's because KSI isn't a great musician and neither are you. You can't even stay in key talking. The way you begin the track is monotone. That's why the guy who mixed you had you on autotune even when all you were doing was speaking. Is that the reason why you also started it with useless yaz? Also, who directed your music video? Is this really how you want to start the video for your diss track? In a bathtub smoking a blunt wearing shitty jewelry? Nothing about this is intimidating. It screams, I'm a bum who likes to beat my wife. Allegedly. Difference between me and you. What I say, I fucking do. You knocking on my YouTube views, retired, still got more than you. 1.2 billion, yeah, I hit that back in 13. You think you fucking dirty? Tell me what you learning. This is a common trope amongst diss tracks, shouting at each other over who's more relevant, and sometimes it works great, but it doesn't really work for YouTubers. You can be famous on YouTube for a decade and rake in millions of dollars doing that. Or you can be famous on YouTube for about a year, and in that span of time bring in the same amount of attention and wealth. And while a diss like this can work a bit better given how you guys both come from gaming communities, you two have completely different audiences. You commentate differently than KSI, you for the longest time didn't swear in your videos, your audience was often younger white kids while KSI's was often younger black kids, and KSI, unlike you, knew how to keep them around. Left for fucking how long? Publicity for new songs? Attacking all your homies cause you know your fucking songs bomb. If there's one thing you can give KSI credit for, it's the fact that his songs still managed to be pretty popular even 6 years later. Whether or not they're good is a different story. He has a much better reputation than his other contemporaries who've also tried to pursue music. He's even collaborated with some big name artists because of it. I personally don't care for them, but it's a good feat to have. Also, he was, and I'm pretty sure still is, actively signed to a label. Labels are still not very understanding of the internet and force their artists to slow down their release schedules because they're unsure how to market more than one project every year or so. While not confirmed on KSI's end, I'm pretty sure that's the main reason why there is just a sizable gap in his uploads. I still have friends who unironically list off the lyrics of his songs to this day. Meanwhile, most of yours are not available to watch by official means. Call me fake Post Malone, homie think you're funny. Austin been a homie since before he making money. Wow, that's probably the best line you have over him. I knew celebrities before they were big. So does everyone else. Have you ever been to a public high school? Ever go back through your yearbook and just acknowledge that one of your former colleagues is just famous now? I knew of Rami Malek before he was Freddie Mercury. Blah! Also, Post Malone is the exception because he knows so many YouTubers. I remember him collaborating with H3H3 almost a decade ago. Is it cause you can't sing? Hide behind your editing? You skip around a beat but think that make you mean? Dude, you literally have autotune on. What you gonna do? You gonna pop me, bitch, please? I bet you never cracked some teeth, like me. It's funny what half a decade does to people. Also, whose teeth did you crack? Your partner's? Allegedly? Boy, you ain't no artist. Coming off. Music sounded like you piped the mic and then you farted. Okay, I get it. This song is a pretty easy target. It hasn't aged the best. He's hitting it for a reason. So how about we listen to KSI's diss track? Hopefully it isn't filled with a bunch of really dark and scary shit. Adam really shit the bed. How you gonna shit the bed? At least I'm never paying child support. But why your baby mama saying that you ain't even paying that? Tell me why the fuck you're cutting yourself. How you're gonna be a dad when you're cutting yourself? Let's talk about Dawn. Slapping and choking from dusk till dawn, then blaming your alter egos. What the fuck? That's not cool, amigo. What the fuck indeed? And then he flew his ex-partner out to be in the music video. I sure hope this won't become a trend. I'm gonna rate both of these like a 2 out of 10. I think they're really bad. When you bring legitimately serious issues into your YouTube diss track, it kind of proves that people stop taking these issues as seriously as they should. And of course, that's a really bad thing. KSI ultimately ended up winning this, but that's mostly because he was punching down on someone who deserved it. You could win basically anything if you just clown on someone who's always a target. Wow, that was a downer. I thought this video was going to be at least a little bit of fun. Let's hope this never happens again. Foreshadowing is a literary device. Jake Paul, former vlogger, avid Trump supporter. I love Jake Paul. It seems every year he does something worse than the previous. The last time I did a video about diss tracks, I talked about his song about YouTube stars where he felt the need to flex the fact that he was once asked to be seen by a Make-A-Wish kid. Seems like a really cool guy. Now instead we're going to talk about his diss tracks aimed against his brother Logan Paul. Logan Paul, former vlogger, also an avid Trump supporter and an avid crypto scammer, allegedly. I wonder if I should have a counter for how often I have to say that. This is one of the first cases of what I'm going to call marketed diss tracks. Are you in need of quick exposure and not really sure how to do it? Easy. Reach out to one of your colleagues and orchestrate the beef. It's surprisingly simple and doesn't take a whole lot of time to do, and the amount of attention both of you will receive is astronomical. I'm not going to go over the history or the context of what happened between the Paul brothers at this point in time because there's multiple times where they would orchestrate a rivalry for the sake of clicks. I'm just going to talk about their first. After the ridiculous success and overwhelming hate of Team 10's It's Everyday Bro and Logan's Help Me Help You and Hero, the brothers, having already been kind of brewing up a rivalry through pranks and challenges on their daily vlogs, thought, hey, let's just make songs about each other. To my knowledge, Jake was first to strike with a diss simply titled Logang Sucks, and it's something. Surprisingly, this is the only diss track that I hadn't watched previously before making this video, which is honestly quite sad. And while it's not as infuriating as the YouTube star song, it's just as stupid. Help me help you make a better song, bitch. Numbers don't lie, the Logang is shit, and why don't we is the Walmart One Direction, the Jake Paulers on top, and we stay flexin'. Maybe you should have gotten Why Don't We to help you write a chorus that actually makes sense rhythmically. Maybe that's the reason why your brother asked for their help when making his stupid pop songs in the first place. I see you talking trash about the song we made. We did it in one day. You had to spend $60K. Sure, you saved a few $1,000s by not relying on other people to help you make your shitty song and music video. The result speaks for themselves. But in the process of you doing that, you made yourself look like a giant buffoon. The only reason It's Everyday Bro had any kind of success was because it was immediately considered upon release as one of the worst songs of all time. It's listed on Wikipedia as such for a reason. Also, there are actual musicians who in the same 24-hour time frame can produce something with more thought and genuine emotion than you will ever be able to. Just because you made your shitty song in one day does not warrant you any kind of acclaim. That's just my warm-up, Mr. Donald Trump hair. It's funny how much people change in 7 years. Yes, you do movies, but are you on Disney? Bitch, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You was popping on Vine, but now your content is shit. There's a lot to dissect with this line. Surprisingly, at the time, people liked your brother more. I know, crazy that there was a time where you guys weren't considered demons. But also, your brother had then, and still now, way more star appeal. Yeah, your brother didn't need to be on a Disney Channel show because he was too good for it. He started an episode of Law & Order about Gamergate and was the leading actor for arguably the most advertised YouTube Red movie that has Disney Channel stars in it. Lines like this are made even more funny knowing that he was eventually brought on to cameo on Jake's Disney show as a means to help boost ratings. This is my second song, but I'm already Hall of Fame with it. Yeah, we both got Lambas, but you don't know how to drive that shit. Hate it or love it, the underdog on top, and I will never stop like I'm running from the cops. What? Now let me help you out. I'm a roast myself now. You got more followers on Instagram. Wow. Did you even try to write something clever? You the Karate Kid and I'm Mr. Miyagi. You just a Prius and I'm a Bugatti. I don't even know what to say anymore. It's so lazy. All I have is the image of Jake and his spoiled rich goons around him, not even spending 10 minutes just to sit down and try to write his stupid song. I don't know why I'm getting so annoyed about this. This is literally the man's entire business model. I think it's because when comparing it to Logan's diss track, which by the way is not very good, this is just 10 times worse. Speaking of Logan, let's talk about his song, The Fall of Jake Paul. Before we start, I just want to make it clear, this is way better than Jake's, but that does not mean this is a good song. It features way more competent production, the lines and jokes have a bit of weight to them, and it makes sense rhythmically, but that does not mean it is something I actively want to listen to. I'm not interested in going through and dissecting Logan's lyrics because if I were to choose which brother I hate the most, Logan still wins by a long shot, and he's held that position for me for roughly 8 years now. He does the exact same thing as his brother to the point where he opens his song mocking him over how easy it was to recreate the shot scene in It's Everyday Bro. Also, unlike Jake's diss track, which seemed to put most of its effort into making fun of his audience, Logan goes out of his way to try to directly insult his brother. It should be every other day. Just some strong advice. I made you famous once, it's about to happen twice. Yeah, you on Disney, but who helped you read all your lines? Don't forget, boy, you were my shadow on Vine. See, it starts with the talent, but it's hard when you got none. I think you kinda salty because I'm the favorite son. Wow, you're just an asshole. There's contempt here, even with your goofy attempts to try to advertise your crappy merchandise. I actually feel kind of bad for your brother, which is saying a lot because I hate both of you. GG's, sorry Jake, your brother won. Oh, I didn't even mention the fact that he had his ex-girlfriend in the video too. I sure hope that doesn't happen again. Moving on, both of these are like a 1, I don't care. Of course, we can't get rid of Jake Paul that easily because now I'm forcing myself to talk about Ricegum's diss track. It's EveryNight Sis featuring Alissa Violet. Did Jake just share her number with every other influencer? Ricegum's rise on the internet is due in large part to popularizing the trend of making these diss tracks in the first place. In the beginning, he would punch down by bullying children because he was too insecure to talk about men his own age, and then he finally grew up to punching down on other creators because he's too insecure to make content that's actually worthwhile. I can tell that you came with that Disney flow. Ain't nobody ever heard about your Disney show. Valid, but I'd go out of my way to argue that if you didn't actively engage in fake rivalries with the Paul brothers in the past, you also wouldn't have any relevance in this. Yeah, Alissa called asking if we could win against Jake Paul. I said we Gucci like the shirts with the snakes on them. Look, I understand that your audience is made up of mostly preteens, but I guarantee you didn't have to explain to them what a Gucci t-shirt is. You wear them quite often. Beastin. I just heard the song Team 10 Now I Hate Y'all. Logan, this will be your last hit like an 8-ball. I'll give him props. That line could be funny. I doubt he wrote it. Yeah, it should be unsurprising that most of the songs here are not actually written by the original performers and are instead made by outside entities. This song was written in part by a creator known as DisGod, who also helped with the production of a few of KSI's tracks. Even though he's hired on to help these people write their songs, he's not a very good writer himself. Nah, wrong Paul, yeah, it's Jake like from State Farm. Get girls but the hooker said you paid for it. Me and Rice in a house with like 8 floors, ride your brother's nuts, you're a scroll for his acorns. Yeah, it's a diss track, alright. Revisiting the song, the lyrics aren't as grating as I remember them. If anything, it's just the delivery. Ricegum and Alissa Violet is a combination I do not want to hear on a rap song, because simply put, they are just as bad on a song as Logan and Jake are. It doesn't matter how much confidence you put into your verses, creators like you do not have enough talent or know how to make a song that actually sounds good. I also do not want to hear or read lines about how much more wealth you have in comparison to other YouTubers because both of you accumulated it in very exploitative ways. Also, cheating or other serious accusations should not be aired out in your YouTube diss tracks, especially if you're gonna insult another woman in the process. But regardless of my criticisms, this song went platinum alongside the previous 2 songs I've showcased. I'm very bitter. This will also be a 1 for me. This next section of the video is going to be spent going over every Sidemen diss track, but if I could be quite frank, I don't know who most of these people are, and I'm not going to go insane trying to. So what I'm going to do instead is read you some of my favorite lines because I think you'll find them quite entertaining. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if the woodchuck looked like you? And then in quotations, bitch, you're just a shit Chris MD. You need to get off MD. You've got a girlfriend now, to be fair to you, so tell me, did you sexually harass her too? Followed by, and he's trying to hide her from the internet. Why? Cause she's a world-renowned skep. You can smell her gonorrhea from a mile away. You should hook her up with some vagina spray. You know, just some of the most distasteful and misogynistic lyrics I've ever had to read. Jeed, I've got a lot of dirt on you. 1 girl, 2 guys, and they both came through. Yes, I'm talking about his brother. Did you think that they only shower with each other? Why are we making accusations like this in an internet song? You're just a meme. You're a joke artist. You've had chlamydia more times than you've charted. Did you know JJ wanks onto his mattress? Doesn't clean it. Sleeps on it. Bro, that's stress. The amount of information these people have on each other is crazy. And I'm a disgrace? Well, I got straight A's, so don't try to come at me sideways. You said your grades were quote-unquote terrible. Me and you will never be comparable. You left school with 2 D's. I could take your girl in 1, 2, 3. They could no longer make jokes about sex, so Vicstar just started making disses about KSI's high school grades. I hate this so much. Also, at some point, KSI's brother felt the need to involve himself in this drama, even though he's not actively a part of the Sidemen in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to include any of those lines here because he shouldn't have been involved at all. But what I will include is lines from a separate diss track directed at KSI's manager, I think. He comes up with this amazing hook. Yeah, he ran. Hiding like he's Anne. This one takes the cake for me. It's funny how insensitive it is. Yeah, let's compare your hiding from my callous beefing to Anne Frank hiding from the Nazis in World War II. Moving right along, we have iDubbbz, an avid user of the N-word and professional boxer. I'd like to point out that Ian has since realized how bigoted he was and has even condemned a lot of his former content cops because of it. But I'm going to talk about this anyway because it's an important part of YouTube history. And this involves, yet again, our good old pal Ricegum. Leading up to the diss, Ricegum had made many callouts and allusions to the Green Man and even begged to have him as a subject on one of his content cops, and just a few years later, he sure got one. The 30-minute video blew up and became a cultural touchstone on YouTube for years to come. It seemed like everybody watched that video at one point in time. I already know the song and the comedic elements of Ian's performance are very much dated, but what I dreaded the most in regards to this disc was that it was produced and co-written by Boyinaband. Boyinaband, musician and accused PDF file. So anything that has his involvement kind of makes me want to throw up. But as we get into these last few songs, you realize that he's a name that is kind of hard to remove because as the trend of diss tracks started to die off, he sure rode that wave all the way to its grave. This diss track is mostly reliant on jokes that Ian makes in the entirety of his video, and if you've never seen an episode of Content Cop, just be warned, it's very mean-spirited. So while the previous disses that I've gone over here are still mostly made with the intention of capitalizing on a trend, this one is actually made to embarrass Ricegum, and it succeeds for the most part. I want to be gay, because you're and I want to savor it, but it's cool. After smashing you, I'll PayPal you 2K. This line is in reflection to when Ricegum smashed Gabby Hanna's phone at a creator party because Gabby confronted him on not writing his own songs. He then went on an entire hate campaign against her, which also included writing her a diss track. I dislike Gabby Hanna, I don't like her or her content, but if there's one thing that I could say about her, it's that she is more than willing to expose bullshit. In this situation, it was Ricegum's ghostwriter, and in another, it was Cody Co's stat accusations. It's then followed up with, that shit was absurd, you're a rapper who can't resolve shit with words, which for all of the garbage that I've sat through for this video is probably the greatest line I've heard by far. The rest of the song points out how for someone as old as Ricegum, he has the maturity of a child and is irresponsible in the way he spends his money, treats women, and creates content. The song ends with a simple, did it feel good though? Which, if you don't know what that alludes to, Ricegum invited an SA victim on one of his live streams and that line actually came out of his mouth. This track is like a 4, the beat sounds like it comes from Roblox, I don't like the co-writer, and a lot of the lines are offensive. But you know what? It's better than everything else I've talked about today. Ricegum's diss track is called Frick the Police, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, it's awful. It's pretty evident that outside of the video made about him and the one that he saw about Leafy, Ricegum does not seem to grasp the purpose of a content cop. He instead goes back to the same trashy insults that he's used time and time again. A 30-minute vid, I'm who you're obsessed with, you look like your sister is the girl that you have sex with, can you get these sheep out my mentions, how can I be mad, bitch, I sleep in a mansion. It's lazy, and I'm pretty sure he knew no matter what kind of response he was gonna make that he failed. He just wanted to capitalize on the hate, and it worked. This one is a 1. Speaking of ones, Pewdiepie, one of the most famous YouTubers in the world, even though he's not number 1 anymore, he's still pretty highly acclaimed, if you ignore this, and what if, don't get me wrong, I used to really like Pewdiepie. In fact, I still have a soft spot for him and his content after all these years, but that's not to say that I enjoy all the things the man's done. It was through his content that for about 2 years or so, I was stuck in a conservative YouTube algorithm, and even though that's not directly his fault, he did play a part in that by having people like Ben Shapiro on his show and by constantly making edgy jokes about the Holocaust. It also didn't help that near the end of the 2010s, he had a rivalry with an Indian music corporation known as T-Series. So as the legend goes, Pewdiepie number 1, T-Series close to number 1, fought T-Series 1. There's not a whole lot of complexity when talking about this battle. If anything, it signified a change in the way creators made content. You either had to be a standalone individual with enough charisma and flashy editing to keep people's attention, a group of creators with an already sizable following coming together to make a production house, or you had to become a corporation. That's why MrBeast is currently the number 1 most subscribed to YouTube channel. That's why people like Ludwig have a sustainable career online. It saw a change in how creators had to go about making content in order to have a sustainable living. It also saw the end of YouTuber diss tracks. The first diss track by Pewdiepie was called Bitch Lasagna. It was produced by Party in Backyard, and it was funny, I guess. It's evident from the title of the track alongside the faux trap dance music in the background that this is a satirical effort. This was considered a high effort feat for Pewdiepie, considering a good majority of his content is literally him strolling through Reddit and folding his gaming chair. It's filled with meme references and subtle racism. Sorry, I meant funny racism. Your language sounds like it comes from a mumble rap community. If you see a white guy equating the sound of music to mumble rap, it's probably best that you stop talking to them. He also ends the song off with a roast that Ricegum could have come up with. You got a population of 1.32 billion, but most of your videos can't seem to hit even 1 million. Sub-bot. Classic way to diss your opponent. You're popular, it's probably because you're using bots. Didn't Keemstar use that same line of thinking? Whatever, the reference to Yu-Gi-Oh was pretty cool, I guess. The second diss track is called Congratulations, featuring, yes, another diss track made with Dave from Boyinaband. This track is slightly better, but there's some really rough lines in here. Guess to beat one Swedish boy, you need 1 billion Asians. About to cause a genocide, so you can call me Hitler. Indians have poo-poo in their brains. That's a blatant racist lie, but still not defamation. See guys, it's fine. It's a joke. We can pretend to be racist because it's funny. Pewdiepie's audience is totally not a bunch of children that can be very easily influenced. It was kind of cool when he pulled out the cease and desist letter though. My favorite part was when Dave wanted to call out an entire population of people for not fixing India's caste system. Indians got YouTube figured out. That's sick, son. How about next you figure out how to fix the caste system? These two are 2s. Once again, the beats sound like they come from Roblox. Pewdiepie is not solid as a rapper, but you know what? Hindsight is 20/20. And that concludes my, nope, just kidding, I got one more Pewdiepie song. A lot of you probably forgot about this one or didn't even know it existed. This one is called Coco, and it's about Coco Melon. I'm guessing at some point Felix wanted to try and recapture his glory days by competing with Coco for some reason, and in the process of doing that, he thought it would be a good idea to make a parody of a children's song and music video to do it. It didn't last too long on YouTube before being banned, because surprisingly, making a fake children's music video on a platform with a lot of children on it is really deceptive and dumb. Boyinaband is also at the helm of this one, and after all the songs I've heard today, surprisingly, this one takes the cake as probably the worst of them all. The lyrics are annoying at best and insane at worst. Out of all the songs that Dave produced, the mixing on this one makes me feel like I've spent 3 years stuck in a mall bathroom. And after the utter failure that this song became, I feel like it officially ended the YouTube diss track trend, at least in a mainstream sense. Good riddance. Before I end this video, I think I should mention that not all YouTubers are terrible musicians. There's a large culture of actually talented people on this website that don't use their music as quick cash grabs like most of the people I've talked about here. It could just seem that way given how many of these creators tend to churn this stuff out. I kind of became obsessed with this topic because these creators do have the resources to make good music if they tried, but it was just so funny to see how often they don't. It seems when you get caught up in numbers on this platform, you forget that you can back off for a bit and make sure the thing you're going to be broadcasting to millions of people is actually worth their time. Because, come on, was this really your best attempt? KSI, did you think that Adam's Apple was a good song? Did you think that using a nursery rhyme was the hardest shit in the world? In the past 5 or 6 years, as I've opened myself up to every musical niche and subgenre I can get my hands on, I'm always surprised to see how people can make so much with so little. You guys share a platform with Jack Stauber and Poppy and Quadeca. You guys have the budget to fund whatever musical ventures you want, but instead you always chose the lazy route. Get a real producer, not a fast rapping milk guy to make your song for you. And if you can't make music or are just not musically inclined, that's also okay. You know what you do have? Words and an audience of people who want to hear them. I understand that being a content creator can sometimes make you feel like you're stuck in a bubble, but unless you're going to take the effort to try to learn a new craft, you will actively be wasting everyone's time. Music as an art form requires patience and a need to tap into the most vulnerable parts of yourself in order for it to be good. Sure, there's a lot of goofy, dumb music in the world that are made by serious musicians, but if you want to be considered a serious musician, surprisingly, you have to be serious. So many of these creators thought that they were becoming legitimate artists just based on the production of these songs, and while yeah, the numbers were there, that doesn't erase how you guys were actively ripped apart at the seams. If there's one thing to end this video off with, it's that the process of creating a good piece of art requires more than an audience. It also requires genuine expression. Having a friendly rivalry with another creator is one thing, but driving around in foreign cars and claiming you're richer than each other over a trap beat is another. And with that, I'm Kyle. If you liked the video, give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, subscribe, and I'll see you around.